Hello, everyone. My name is Anita Ihuman, and I'm so happy to be here today. Today, I was speaking on the topic burnout. You should care less about your job. Okay, a little bit about myself. I am Anita Ihuman. I'm a software developer and developer advocate at Kivano, policy engine for Kubernetes, and a meshmate at Layer 5, otherwise known as mentors in the community. And I'm a technical writer and an open source advocate. All right, so now let's get to topic for today. During this session, we're going to be talking about what exactly burnout is and what causes burnout, the problems of an unhealthy job, burnout as a stress phenomenon, signs of burnout, remedies for burnout, and how to manage burnout while at work. So this seems like a lot. Let's get to it already. Okay. Since the COVID-19, I think since the year 2020, most of us have been forced to work from home. And this has been a challenge for a lot of persons because you have to deal with managing both your family and your job at the same time. I know prior to this era, we would most persons would escape the family to go by going to work and then escape work by coming back home, and there's actually no difference between both of them today since we have to work from home. And that has been a thing of worries, and so many persons are coming out to bring the topic burnout, that coming out to complain, or coming out as most persons are actually complaining or bringing complaints of burnout from their work and their lives generally. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So what exactly is burnout? Burnout is a state of mental and physical exhaustion as a result of continuous exposure to stressful situations. And this situation can, at the end, zap out the joy out of your career, out of your friendship and your family after a prolonged time. Now, this is not just stress. This is stress that has accumulated for a very long period of time. You've had a lot of stressful situations that were not adjusted or were not taken care of properly. And at the end, it has accumulated to where you don't feel like you want to go on anymore. You don't feel like you want to, you don't feel good enough, or you don't feel proud of all that you have done. You don't feel accomplished enough, and you just want to give up. That is what is classified as burnout. And so many persons seem to be, experiencing this recently as a result of cause of the work at home situation. And we're going to talk about all that causes burnout exactly. So what exactly causes burnout? There's numerous causes actually. So many persons experience burnout as a result of different reasons, but the major cause is as a result of the changes in the social dynamics of work. Now, this can be as a result of multiple part-time jobs, because a lot of persons have been subjected to working more than one job just to get ends meet or meet ends meet. And these jobs are time consuming. It's not just working two jobs that you probably dedicate 2 hours for. These are jobs that take 20 hours a week, 40 hours a week. And some persons actually have to handle 2 to 3 of these jobs. So you can imagine how much stress is being put on persons like this. And less concern, and another reason is less concern and commitment for employees. Now, when the organization or the company has puts less care about the welfare of the employees, this also affects in so many ways, because they don't think about a time where workers need to take a break. There's no committee that's responsible for the mental health and well-being of the staff and all of that. This also plays a role in the burnout. It's another social dynamic of the workplace that plays a role in causing burnout. And we also have the destructive competition between co-workers. Now, most persons find themselves in offices where they have to, put in more effort than expected, because of course they're in an unhealthy work environment. So not a lot of persons are happy with their performance, so they have to give in more efforts, or more commitment than required of them all the time. They have to be on their toes, because every slight mistake, they stand a chance of losing their roles in that particular job or office that they find themselves. And we have divisive tactics that reward talent, but not for everyone. And this is particularly talking about bias in the workplace. Of course, we have several persons who actually experience this bias in one way or another, from their coworkers and even from the employees. And this goes on as far as causing burnout. We have people getting shut out of opportunities. This is like another um, this is also as a result of the bias in the workplace, and then the loss of the common good as a core value. Now, when an organization or the entire staff has lost the zeal to actually, work towards a particular goal, every single person becomes exhausted mentally, because one person can't pull the strings to make everything work perfectly in an organization, of course. So every single person becomes tired and exhausted at the end of the day, because there's too much to do and no one's actually eager to do all of that. Another major cause of burnout is the personal challenges, and this is always neglected by so many persons. It's some of the reasons, some of the challenges are the pessimism. Now, if you're someone who always feels that regardless of how situations might be, things don't ever work out right, or you don't see the good in any situation, regardless of how rosy it might be, just always find the urge, or just get the urge to um castigate every situations that comes around you. And this can also amount or accumulate to burnout over time. We have perfectionism, and these are for persons who always feel the need to give in more than 100% effort, regardless of how good they're making enough effort, or how good their performance might be. And this kind of persons go as far as putting more pressure on themselves just to make sure everything goes out perfect. And it actually doesn't work out that way, because in the end, you're stressing yourself and your mental health, and that plays a huge role in causing burnout at the end of the day. And we also have victims of bias, like I talked about earlier. So many persons have either one or two physical attributes that make them, or can be people classify them with, and because of this, they're treated unfairly as a result of these attributes that they possess. This could be as a result of their appearance. This could be at their race, their nationality, their color, or how they actually speak, or their height. All of that, all of these attributes also play a huge role in how people treat them in the workplaces, and they don't actually get treated fairly, of course. And this plays a huge role in causing burnout for most persons, and also the lack of interest. And for several persons, they don't know why they started the job in the first place. They don't see the reason why they got into a particular role, and so there's no vibe, or there's no zeal to actually keep pushing and continue with that particular role. So this also plays a role in causing burnout for most people. And we also have the family and friends. This is another neglected cause of burnout. This is because so many of us are put under peer pressure to meet up standards that have been set by our friends, by our family, and people around us. These standards have always been there, and the need to always beat these standards make a lot of persons sit on their toes in everything they're doing, and always looking for the criticism, and waiting for the people around them to actually pass the judgment to either they're doing good enough or not. And this also causes burnout for several persons in different ways. Now let's look at the problems of an unhealthy jobs Of course, we're talking about burnout in the workplace. So let's look at what makes the workplace unhealthy for you actually. Various job conditions can be classified as highly toxic and stressful. And this is because most persons have to spend long working hours with high demands from this job. So assuming you're working, like I mentioned earlier, most persons take on more than one job, and then they spend about 20 to 40 hours per week for that particular role. That is a lot of time dedicated to a job, and your mental health is at stake in this point. Then the job insecurity and the lack of control. If you're not certain that the role you're occupying today will be available for you in the next month, and so you have to be on your toes at every interval, just making sure you put in the best that you can. And this also plays a huge role in how toxic and a work environment can be for most persons, because not so many persons work under pressure. Not so many persons work very well if they are not comfortable. And we have the low social support and work family conflict. Of course, we can only get better if we see that every single person around us is giving the support that is needed of them, from our co-workers, from our families, from our people living around us. But then imagine you find yourself in an office where you actually don't have this social support, where instead of the co-workers to collaborate and work hand in hand, there is so much negativity in the workspace, so much negativity from each co-worker trying to be better than the next person, and so there's no collaboration. This also plays a huge role, and these job conditions pose a danger to the workers' well-being that we don't always realize, and we never realize it on time. And because of this, there's an increase in the annual unnecessary debt and healthcare costs. Of course, people never see, or most of us never see, how much efforts we're putting, or how much implications putting in all of the time we have, or all of the efforts that we have into our job can cost to us without considering our mental health, of course. And that is like one of the dangers that an unhealthy job conditions can pose. And then we also have the lower work-life expectancy with more working years. Now, if you notice, most persons say, yeah, I hope to retire in my 30s. I hope to retire in my 20s. I hope to retire in my 40s. Regardless, for different persons, the time for retirement varies. But with work conditions like this, most persons end up retiring in the 60s, in the 70s, even 80s. You see old and elderly persons still putting in all the hard work that they can, just to make sure that they get the salary that they deserve. And this is because these jobs that you're occupying have given you the illusion of a huge pay. And so all of your time and dedication is spent on a particular job or a particular role, and you don't realize how fast time has gone. Before you realize it, you've spent 10 to 20 years in a particular role, waking up every single day, doing the same routine, putting in all your best. It's excruciating efforts that you're putting in without even knowing how much time has passed by. And this leads to a greater risk of burnout and depression. Imagine being in your 40s and you're still handling a particular job that you handled when you were in your 20s, no increment in the salary, no reduction in the tax that is required for you, and you're still going through all of the toxic traits that the workplace has, from long working hours to job insecurities and lack of social support from coworkers. That would be definitely not good for your mental health. And these are all possible conditions that could lead to burnout in a workplace. Now, what exactly can burnout as a stress phenomenon be? A lot of persons see burnout as stress, but I do not think I would classify burnout as stress, because if you're stressed, you could take 30 minutes break and sleep and wake up and feel stronger or more energetic. If you're stressed, you could just take a moment and drink a glass of water and you feel a lot better. But if you're burnt out, 30 minutes is not enough to recover from all the mental exhaustion that you're going through. If you're burnt out, you need a longer time. if you're burnt out, you actually feel like the world doesn't matter anymore, because nothing feels right, nothing works out well as you want, or nothing goes out right as you expect. And a simple example of this will be myself. I think for a few months after I got my job, just like every single person, I was super pumped about getting everything. My first job, I was super pumped about getting everything in place and doing all of the tasks. But while I was doing everything in my workplace, I was also handling like two other jobs elsewhere, and the need to actually put through with these jobs made me feel burnt out at the end of the day. And I didn't even realize that I was burnt out until I started researching about burnout, because I wanted to quit just 3 to 4 months into the job, and I felt the urge to quit. I felt like I wasn't in the right work environment for my mental health, and probably I wasn't doing good enough. But that was like a totally different thing altogether, because I didn't realize how much pressure I had put on myself within that space of 3 months with my job, and then two part-time jobs that I was also running on. So now burnout takes three dimensions in exerting on you. The first um the first sign of this prolonged chronic stress is exhaustion. That is the first step. That's where you feel just stressed. You feel like, oh yeah, I'm stressed, I should take a week or two break. But oftentimes we don't take a break just because we're stressed, because we know that it might affect our performance in our jobs, it might affect our performance in our career. So we usually don't listen to this, the indicator, the stress indicator that we get. And then we move on to the next step, which is the cynicism. And this is where you get the negative response to your job, where you start to, neglect tasks that are assigned to you, where you start to procrastinate more, where you start to miss out on meetings and deadlines and all of that. And these are the negative response that we start to, give out for the different roles that we're occupying because of burnout that we're not noticing on time. And if not treated at this point, if not noticed or adjusted at this time, it proceeds to the next dimension, which is the professional inefficiency. And this is where you experience negative self-evaluation. Now, this is the point where you feel like there's no more, there's not more you can give. Of course, you're exhausted, so there's nothing more you can give. So you feel the need to quit, you feel the need to give up, you feel like the world has given up on you already, so you have to give up on the world as well. You feel down, that nothing works out right. And at that moment, most persons go as far as quitting the jobs. Most persons go as far as, taking drastic steps, just because they didn't notice this exhaustion that started with just stress on time. And so now let's look at the signs of burnout. Burnout for most persons is experienced in different ways. Like I said, most persons feel it in very different ways. It depends on how you accumulate or process matters that come to you. It starts for most persons with a sense of failure and self-doubt, then moves on to feeling helpless, trapped, and defeated. Then you start getting detached and feeling alone, getting detached from society, from your workplace, from your family, from your friends. Then there's loss of motivation and increasingly cynical and negative outlook. Of course, you're repelling the negative energy for people around you, even at the workplace and at home. You're exerting so much negativity, and you don't even realize it. There's reduced sense or no sense of accomplishment at all. Like I said, I felt like I wasn't doing well enough, whereas I was juggling 3 tasks simultaneously, and that is exhausting for anybody at all. And then we start feeling tired and drained most of the time. There's lowered immunity and frequent illness. Of course, we often classify the illness from our workplaces as just minor stress, but then sometimes it's not just stress. Sometimes it's your body telling you that you're more than stressed and you need a break. But a lot of times you don't listen to this, and then we have the change in appetite and sleep. So these signs can vary for different persons, but once you start getting any of these hints, it is an indicator that there is potential danger ahead and you should watch out. And once you start getting these notifications or getting these indications, then you should know that it's a warning sign of a toxic work environment. One, because it could be that most of the exhaustion is coming from your workplace. Most of the draining, mentally draining tasks are coming from your workplace. So you should always go back to your workplace and see what is actually causing you to, break down so badly. And also, it can be a sign that you need to stop and breathe. Probably you haven't taken a moment to, analyze things, to give yourself a break and accumulate things. So probably you just need to take a moment and reason things, see things as they are, and then accumulate it properly without so much what a rush into it, right? And then the response should always be focused on improving your mental health, because that's where it all starts from. It starts from the mental stress and exhaustion before it gets to the burnout stage. So you should always look out for improving your mental health. And once you've noticed or taken note of this, the best ways or the best remedies for burnout for me personally is always sleep. A lot of sleep. I would shut down my system and get good beauty sleep. And I always advise this for anyone who's actually going through burnout. So if you're actually experiencing burnout in one way or the other, try sleeping, getting enough rest. I'm talking about sleeping like the world is ending today. I'm talking about sleeping actual sleep, not sleeping with the thoughts of waking up and then jumping to work exactly immediately. And another is going on a vacation. Of course, this helps a lot. It helps a lot. You need to go on a vacation. This vacation could be a break from your current work environment. It could be a break from where the place that is actually making you feel exhausted, or the person's making you feel exhausted, but you just need a vacation from anything that makes you think about work, family, or anything that can be exhausting to your mental health, just to get yourself back in shape. And then we talk about exercise as well. Oftentimes people neglect exercise, but it's really, really helpful when it comes to, remedying burnout, because while you're working out and doing all of the relaxations, your brain is not thinking as much as it would if you were sitting idly in your workplace or sitting in your room looking at your computer. And so exercise always helps for the body, not only for the body but also for the mental health. And another thing is to communicate your thoughts and feelings to someone. I mean, the feeling of burnout starts from your mental health, starts from your mental health, and then it goes down to how you feel and accumulate things. Then you start to exert these feelings onto other people around you, and that's where the negativity from burnout starts coming from. And so it's okay to actually communicate these feelings to people around you. Try to tell them how you feel and what you actually feel exactly. Probably they might give you just the right advice to help you get through that particular situation. And also try as much as possible to show yourself self-love and appreciation. I mean, you've done so much, you've been doing so much. You need a break just to appreciate yourself for all that you've been doing, because you deserve it. And also, finally, remember why you started, because this is always a big one for most persons who have lost the need to go forward, who have lost the need to push further. Always remind yourself why you started, the reasons why you started that particular job or that particular career path in the first place. Probably the job is the reason why you're not feeling the vibe of your career path. And if the job is the reason, then you should recheck that particular job and look for a better one. And if not, then you should recheck your goals and the reason why you found yourself on that particular path. This might help you to trace yourself back and also sort out with the burnout issues. And finally, how can we manage burnout while at work? Managing burnout while at work, it's not, can happen for many persons in different ways. But personally, I always say learn to ask for help because it helps a great deal. You are a human being, and it's okay not to know everything. It's okay not to have everything figured out. So if you're given a task and you're not sure you can get through with it on your own, ask for help from your coworkers. That is where communication among coworkers becomes a vital point, So learn to ask for help from your coworkers and from your families and friends, and then learn to say no. It is okay to say no if you're given a task and you feel like you can't meet up with that particular task that you're given, then learn to say no. And also be outspoken. Always learn to express yourself in areas that you feel needs to be expressed or addressed, particularly on how your coworkers approach you or speak to you. If you feel like you're not treated fairly enough, then you should be outspoken about that and bring the matter to your recruiter so they can see your point of view as well, and then set reasonable deadlines for yourself. Now, this is me telling myself to always set reasonable deadlines because I'm fond of setting deadlines like shorter than expected, because I always have to like do the work before the main deadline comes on, and it helps me. But although it's not a good trait, always set reasonable deadlines for yourself to help you to process and get your resources better and faster. And also put in your mental health first. Of course, you are working is exhausting, not just physically, but also mentally. Regardless of the job you're doing, you're putting in so much, effort. So you always have to put your mental health first because no one is going to do that for you. And your work comes just after your mental health. If you're not in the right state of mind, you can't be productive. You can't actually be the best staff for the year. You can't do all of that. So you should always put your mental work first and be less passionate about your job. If your job is the kind that deprives you from everything that you do about your daily activities, let's say hanging with friends for a few hours, or taking a stroll down, or taking your pet for a walk, or whatever it is that you do within your leisure. If your job is the kind that deprives you of that particular pleasure, then I think you should be less passionate about that particular job. Because if unfortunately you dropped dead at that minute, another person would definitely replace you in the office or in your workplace, whereas you will no longer be there to, look at all of that. And life goes on. So you should put your mental health first, and always learn to be less passionate about your work. I'm not talking about being less passionate in a negative way, of course. Give your work the best that you can, but always create time for yourself as well, because you're just as important as your work. All right. And in that, I would draw the conclusion. Thank you for listening, and thank you for taking our time to listen to this section. Burnout is it's a thing that so many persons are currently going through right now. And it's a difficult thing to actually go through on your own. And so if you're going through burnout right now, I hope this session helped you in one way or the other. And I hope it makes you realize that your mental health matters just as much as your job. And so you should always think about your mental health first before you think about your job, because if you're not in the right state of mind, you can't be productive in any way. And you have to make sure you're not burnt out while working, because you might as well not be anything good or any good to your company while you're burnt out. So thank you so much for your time, and If you want to reach out to me or you have any further questions, you can connect with me on Twitter using the username provided, or on GitHub using the username provided below. Thank you.